I got something to say, got something to say.
My name is Rashid bin Qadir. Welcome to the Conversion to Islam podcast. You know, Islam is the fastest growing religion on the planet. So we wanted to create this space so that we can listen to and learn from those individuals who have embraced this tradition. Further, we want to educate those researching Islam. If you've taken your Shahada recently, we want you to know that you are not alone. And if you take your declaration of faith many, many years ago, God willing, this will recharge your spiritual battery. Assalamu alaikum. This is Rashid bin Qadir coming to you live from Sacramento with the Conversion to Islam podcast. And so with any event, we always start with thinking and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll go ahead and do that. But a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Qala rabbi sadri wa yassir li amri wa luqdatan min lisani wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahadu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. We testify that there is no true God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessing be upon him, is our final servant and our messenger. So once again, welcome to the Conversion to Islam podcast. And today, I'm very honored to have as our co-host, Sister Sakina, coming to you live from Texas with a lot of knowledge and background in the deen, alhamdulillah. And we also have Sister Jenn, who is from Sacramento with a very beautiful and warming conversion story. And inshallah ta'ala, we all are going to benefit from the enlightenment and what she has to give to us, inshallah ta'ala. So I want to turn the floor at this moment over to Sister Jenn.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Nice to meet you, Sister Sakina.
Nice to meet you too. Welcome.
Thank you. And Brother Rashid, thank you so much for doing this. I think this is an awesome project, mashallah, and may everyone benefit. And whoever is on the fence about Islam, you know, may they find the truth and be guided to the straight path.
Ameen.
So I guess I'll just start with my childhood, right? Because that's kind of where it all began. A little background about my parents. My mom remarried, I think when I was like 7 or somewhere around that age. My mom's Buddhist. My stepdad is kind of a mosaic of things, right? He did his, research of religion in the 70s. He has read the Quran, he has read the Bible, he has settled on Taoism, or he's a Tao, I don't know. He made up something. So that's what he is. My mom suffers from PTSD, from war trauma, from, the Cambodian Revolution. My stepdad is an alcoholic. He's raised by his grandmother and never knew his father. Some childhood trauma for me. Sometime after they married, my biological father tried to kidnap my sister and I. So we were away from my mom for about 2 months, and they didn't know where we were. They finally found us at a new school. And so needless to say, I didn't see my dad again until I was 18. My mom and my stepdad was like, nope, that was your one chance to, co-parent, and you blew it. So probably another reason why my family decided to move from the LA area up here to Sacramento. We settled in Elk Grove in 1991. I felt like my stepdad was kind of more of the parent in my childhood. He was the disciplinarian. He called the shots when, I got invited to sleepovers and, play dates and stuff like that. My mom kind of was just in the background. She was focusing on, her career. She did the shopping and the cooking, took us shopping every weekend, made sure we had the latest fashion for school. That was kind of like her way of parenting. In middle school, I was really shy. So I was bullied. Plus, moving up to Sacramento in a new area and just feeling really, new, in your adolescent years, it's very challenging, right? So you're just full of insecurities. So I was bullied for being shy, and I guess it came off as being stuck up when you always dress nice, right? So it was like I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, why is everybody mean to me? In middle school, after school, I got attacked by two girls. They didn't like that their friend's boyfriend liked me or whatever. So since then, I kind of struggled with self-esteem and making a lot of friends. Into high school, I had no idea what I was going to be when I was, going to grow up. So that kind of always was like a root of insecurity for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. And since I always talked back to my parents, it didn't seem like they believed in me either. So I kind of resented them for not giving me more guidance. Given my stepdad's personality and shortcomings, me and him never got along. We disagreed on everything. Just he was an alcoholic. He was racist. He just would make rude comments about Asians in front of us. Like, oh, I'm right here, don't use that term, or he would just go down the list like everybody is, every race is, he had those horrible terms for them. So I just hated that about him. And we just butted heads all the time. And I always felt like I had to challenge him and then stand up for myself. Going back to my mom, she's a genocide survivor. In the mid-'70s, during the revolution, my mother's side of the family lost all of their wealth. So I feel like when they came to America, mashallah, my mom, I don't appreciate her enough, but she did go through some stuff. So like 4 years of just eating grass, right? Because the Khmer Rouge, they didn't give people much choice. You had to work in the fields all day, and your family would just get one small bowl of rice. Here you go. Good luck. Let's see. I can't. So because of that trauma, I feel like I can't really remember her being really there for me, having, that good, meaningful relationship with moms. She was just kind of there, right? Just kind of floating in the background. So because, I had an emotionally distant mom, dad was, super crazy and annoying. My early memory of attempting to talk to God was in middle school. It was usually because I had just got done yelling at my stepdad. I would run to my room, cry my eyes out, and wished and prayed for a way out. And, I even tried to copy a movie scene one time, and I knelt at the end of the bed. And, I tried to say, oh, Jesus. And then, and then in the pit of my stomach, I'm like, that don't feel right. So I'm just going to say God. I'm just going to say God from now on. So I continued my conversations with God, in the middle of the night sometimes, definitely after emotional arguments with stepdad. And because I was so vocal, I felt like I was the black sheep in the family. My sister was more liked. She was less vocal. She was just kind of like, I'm just gonna, talk to my friends and be a happy child. And I was kind of like, ugh, my parents are blah. So in 1998, after high school, first chance I got, I moved out with some friends that I met in college. And I had met my ex-husband there the first year of college. Typical American relationship. We were always together. Found out he was Muslim, and I didn't, we couldn't, be public like other relationships. That always really bothered me. But, having no self-esteem and not understanding what a healthy relationship is supposed to be like, I just kind of went along and, thought I was in love. It was my first serious relationship I had ever had. We dated for 5 years. I felt too invested to give up. Actually, I tried to break up with him one time, and because he just had way too many friends that were girls. And I was just like, that is not cool. And you're not respecting my, you know, my rules, my feelings, my boundaries. So I don't want to do this anymore. And then of course he got me back and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I, you know, was already invested, told him that, you know, we need to get married because I do come from also a kind of conservative family. I think most Asian families are conservative. So if you are living with a man, you better be married or you're just going to be, you know, shameful person of the whole family. Right. So at that time also, you know, I was 23, 24, you know, my only life goal was marriage. Marriage means diamond ring, and that means social status. You know, I was a college dropout. I didn't know what I was doing. I worked in customer service. I was just trying to make ends meet. It was really frustrating and embarrassing that I didn't know his family. And I just thought that, okay, it'll all be better after we get married. So, so right before we got married, I decided I need to research Islam. I need to know what the heck I'm getting into. And do they all agree to beat up women or what's going on? I'm so embarrassed to admit that I went to Masjid An-Noor. I was taking a psychology course one time and I made the excuse to kind of research Islam at the same time, and it was a project for class. You know, I had to go and people observe and write down my notes and stuff. So I came in there with no hijab on, with my pen and paper, and everybody thought I was the FBI. I was sitting in the back, like making my notes and watching people pray, all these women pray. And mashallah, there was a lady that came up and answered all my questions. I still remember her face. And actually, I've seen her around Elk Grove one time. I just didn't have the guts to talk to her. But mashallah, she was very nice to me. She answered all my questions. She said, no, we do not beat up women, and our religion doesn't, you know, teach that. So I said, okay, thanks, bye. And, you know, during that time, the internet was just kind of getting, you know, as a regular thing. It was still dial-up internet back then. So I worked at Earthlink Internet Service in Natomas at the time. And, you know, I was taking customer service calls and was surfing the net. And I just started, you know, researching Islam. And there was this one paragraph that kind of solidified in my heart and in my gut. It said something like, you know, there's like, God has no beginning and no end. He is just he, and you know, it's just one God. And it was just like, yes, I agree with this. This is the truth, because I cannot picture a man who is responsible for all of this whole world. And I remember back in those days, we used to get chain letters, right? Chain emails, right? I hated those. I would, if you don't pass this on, blah, 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 you're going to luck. I would delete those. But I did get one that I thought was beneficial. It was the picture of the planets, right? So this is the Earth in relation to the sun, and this is how much, you know, million times bigger the sun is to the Earth. And then they showed a bigger planet, right, that was way more bigger than the sun, and that was, you know, a million times bigger than the sun. And it kept going on and on and on and on. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, whoa, there are planets out there that's millions and billions bigger than each other. Like, that's amazing. No man is responsible for that. SubhanAllah, no man. So that kind of, you know, I guess during that time kind of strengthened my conviction that, you know, there's one being, one superpower that's responsible. Anyway, so where was I at? I have my notes.
So you were working at Earthlink, and then you were getting some chainmails, but you saw something about the planets, and that helped you to believe that there's just one creator.
Yep. And after my research, I said, okay, I'm gonna convert, because honestly, this sounds really dumb, but I wanted to be the same religion as my husband. And I thought, okay, this is enough. This is fine, because once we get married, it'll be better, because our relationship will finally be open, and we'll have this mutual religious interest, and I can finally, live that fairy tale dream that was happening in my mind. Like, after you get married, it's just going to be so happy and blissful. I just thought, at 24 years old, that we would just eventually develop spiritually together. Of course, we never prayed. And of course, that was perpetuated by other people's condescending ways of inspiring Islam. And of course, when you come at people like that, that never works. We were married for 13 years. We have 2 beautiful girls, mashallah. I didn't realize it then, but what was going on in the marriage was just a lot of mind games, manipulation, emotional and financial abuse. I always felt confused. I felt dark and cornered. And just one year, I just had enough, and I prayed for the truth. And I didn't pray a lot, but once in a while I did pray. And that day I prayed for the truth, crying and just confused and just on the brink of like a mental breakdown. So I needed God. And Allah Al-Wali was my friend and helper that day or that week or all the time, actually. But I felt that week, he showed me the truth. I came across this article about emotional abuse and financial abuse. And it was like, boom, big light bulb over my head. It was like, holy bleep, I need to leave this man. And I called my parents and I called my sister, and we, talked about it, and we planned it out. And 6 months later, I left him and, packed everything in a U-Haul. I left our nice big giant house on the golf course. I left, I didn't care if I wasn't going to get any part of the house, because it was like, whatever. I need my sanity, and I need myself. So that was that. 3 years into being a single mom proved really hard and overwhelming too. I had those period of having fun and doing whatever. I was working full time, trying to do real estate also on the weekends, living with my parents, moving to an apartment, moving back to my parents, shuffling the kids back and forth from Elk Grove to Roseville. It was really, really exhausting. Trying to climb up the corporate ladder was really challenging also. When interviews weren't fruitful, I was still trying to live that lifestyle I had when I was married. So my debt was mounting up. Dating was a waste of time. Going out drinking with friends, of course, is a waste of time. And that added also to my debt. I just felt like I was spinning my wheels, and I was failing at the first goal of good role model for my daughters. And I felt this incredible pull to come back to Islam. I think my soul was tired. My heart was tired, and I needed Allah's help, and he knew it. Al-Wakil, trusty, dependable advocate. He was pulling me back. So at the end of 2019, I reached out to Sister Jane. We were friends before when I was married. We used to hang out. I look up to her like a mother. She always listened. She was one of the few Muslims I knew at that time who is kind and genuine, and loving, how a Muslim should be. And I didn't have any good examples of good Muslims at the time. So I sent her a message on Facebook and I said, I think I want to come back to Islam. Can you come with me to Tarbiyah? Al-Mu'id, the restorer, the reinstater who brings back all. And it seemed like that whole week, I straight cried hard every single day. It was like finally healing from the marriage, healing from feeling like a horrible mother. I was healing from, childhood trauma. I don't know what was happening, but it was all coming out. And it was me suppressing and trying to be strong all this time for my girls. So that was cathartic. So me and Jane started going to Tarbiyah. We joined the Soul Sisters group, and at that time they were reading Yasmin I don't know how to pronounce her name. Yasmin Mojahid.
Yes, because I was in the Soul Sister group, so I knew you looked familiar to me. Yes. Yes.
Small world.
Small world. I was sitting here listening to your story, and she sounds and looks so familiar to me. But yes, we did do the Soul Sisters at Tarbiyah, which was very nice because the brothers would just clear out for us. So we could be there like Margaret, Isha, none of them came, and we could just make salad and talk. It was beautiful.
So we read the book, Reclaim Your Heart, and the way that she describes holding, people in your hand. And maybe this is something that Islam teaches. I didn't know, but the way she explained it, to hold people in your hand, not in your heart. Only God belongs in your heart. So.
Yeah, and I had a question for you real quickly. Well, first of all, you're definitely a fighter. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, everything that you went through in terms of getting here to the United States and everything with your parents and all the trauma, and the husband, I mean, everything, you're still standing and you're a fighter. And I think there's a story right in that. But also in middle school, when you prayed, you knew then that you needed God, that you needed something. And you took the time out, even in middle school, to pray. You prayed to Isa, but didn't feel that was necessarily the right thing. And when you saw the planets, it's helped you to realize that that Allah creates everything, right? Allah, that not a one man could not clearly do all of this. But how do you view your life now, after you've taken Shahada, after you becoming a Muslim and going through all of that trauma? But I want to get back to the marriage situation in a moment later on. But that's my question for now. How do you feel about life now that you've taken your Shahada?
I feel like something inside of me always aligned with Islam, subhanAllah. So I feel like whatever that was always in me is now, I guess, blooming. For instance, I always felt like, so there's that, being kind to people, right? There's, saving yourself for marriage, right? Mostly just being kind and considerate and charitable and generous is kind of always in me. And I'm going to say that it has helped me in my career too, because, being in customer service, people want to call and put you down because they need a counselor. So they call customer service to put everybody down because you're just the bottom of the totem pole. So who cares about you? I'm just going to be rude and I'm going to abuse you. But you know what? When they got to me, they would hear professionalism. They would get empathy. They would get patience. And I did that for the sake of Allah. I don't know what it was, but I felt like in my heart, I need to be kind to this old man because I don't know what he's going through. Right. So alhamdulillah, that has helped me advance in my career. I was always, successful in in my role, it has helped me climb that corporate ladder. And I now work in the home loans department, where I can finally make a living and support my kids and move into a bigger apartment and not freak out when child support is late. You know?
Right.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, you answered it. No, you answered it. You know, what was life? How do you feel Islam changed your life? And it sounds like it's that sadaqah, it's that charity, it's that being kind to people. And I can see it looks like Sister Sakina's got something on her brain. I see the wheels spinning
on my face. I first and foremost want to say, Shukran, thank you so much for sharing your story. Your story is a great story. It speaks to those who may be struggling and suffering. When I hear your story, I say, wow, she still called on Allah. When I hear your stories, I think about the women in history of Islam. I think about Hazrat Hajar, Hagar. I think about Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, Bithia in the Bible. I think about these women, these strong women throughout Islamic history, and I hear your story, and you are of that example. So may Allah truly reward you, and shukran for telling your story. I do have a couple of questions, and one is for a lot of women coming into Islam. There is a large percent of women that come through a significant other, a boyfriend or a husband, and that is common in Islam. Do you find that there should be better ways to address this subject? Because I also feel that they're left outside. So they come in through their husband and they're not really making connections outside of him. Therefore, they end up in a lot of unfortunate situations that befall the marriage, the relationship, involving with the family. What do you think is some of the good ideas that we can incorporate to help people that are making this transition through someone else?
That is my favorite subject. It sounds like women and empowerment to me. And I did want to mention that a part of my journey back to Islam started with reading many books on abuse and many books on self-development and self-compassion. And things started feeling familiar. I'm like, oh, this feels like Islam. I think Islam teaches this. I think Islam teaches self-compassion. So that topic brought me back to Islam. And I feel like, Yasmin's book, Reclaim Your Heart, it's all about, we need to change the mindset of women, because we are caretakers, we are givers, so we get wrapped up in, I want to please my man, and I want to please his family, and I want to be liked, and it's not about that. It's about pleasing God. It's about following, his rules. And when you do that, you're a role model for everybody else, so they can get on the train, so they can, so they can find out what is sunnah, how you're supposed to treat your family, how you're supposed to treat your wives and your kids. But anyway, women who come as a girlfriend, and they, unfortunately, I have seen, somebody who has come in as a girlfriend, converted, and then left because there's no point, because they broke up. It's kind of like, what are you doing it for? Honestly, that's what it boils down to. So, my advice is just to educate yourself on, dig deep. What is going on inside it? What is going on inside of you? Work on yourself and your self-development. One thing I also wanted to answer your first question, Brother Rashid, that the one thing that I learned about Islam now that I cling on to, and that's what helps me to persevere, is Allah is forgiving, is as long as you keep trying and you keep turning back. I've made some mistakes once since I've came back to Islam. I kept praying. You know, coming back to my prayer mat with shame, you know, with regret, but I keep coming and I keep asking him for help. And he wants, you know, the shaitan is always going to want to say, you messed up. That's it.
Right.
Why are you praying? You messed up. Why even come to the prayer mat? You're a loser, or whatever those thoughts are going in your head. But, you know, he has helped me. You know, I've made mistakes. I've come back and he has helped me again and again and again.
SubhanAllah. Now, when you said that, I appreciate the emotion in your voice with that, and I know that's in your heart, obviously, as well. And it just made me think, you know, that Shaitan, he's in front of us, behind us, on the left, on our right, and below us. And the minute we take Shahada, he's coming at us, and he's coming hard, and he's going to try to shake us, and he's going to try to make us not be Muslim and not follow Allah. And so we're going to fall to the side, and that's fine. I mean, like you said, as long as we come back and we come back with sincerity and we put our head on that prayer mat, and it doesn't matter what we've done, Allah is going to be attentive to that fact, and he knows this. And sometimes we have to be tested and trialed so that we come back. And also, you know, certain people, just because they become Muslim, doesn't mean they're always going to practice those ways. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that follow that go that route, and we have to be careful because the people, our wives and our children and those around us, are going to follow that lead sometimes. And so we need to be careful as men in terms of how we treat our women. And I like the fact that you talked about women's empowerment and education and things of that nature. So I'm trying to think what my question was, but I don't know. I was just really feeling what you were saying right there about forgiveness.
Yeah, that's you know, the one thing that I'm always going to teach my kids is you messed up, so what? Ask God to help you. Just keep making dua, keep praying about it. You know, who cares what people are going to think? Who cares what your family members are going to think, or whatever Muslims. I hate that whole mindset of, I got to display this, you know, perfect religious behavior. And that's not what Islam is about. That's not what Islam is about. Islam is about self-development. It's about, you know, persevering and, you know, and keep on keeping on. So I tried hijab, I took it off. I'll try it again, you know, in the future, but I'm not going to stop praying.
You mentioned that your stepfather was, you know, made a lot of derogatory statements, you know, racist and unnecessary hardship towards other people. How did he receive your becoming Muslim? I'm sure you probably didn't really care, but what was that like, and what kind of family dynamic came from that between you, him, and your mother?
Well, when I first converted, it's so long ago. I don't remember. I don't believe I was living at home. So I don't know. He probably didn't like it, and it made sense to him that, you know, I was getting married and whatever. But he did say something that was very kind. When I, you know, was divorced, he saw that I still believe in Allah. I still, you know, talk about Islam. I'm still practicing, and that impressed him. So, inshallah, you know, I always pray for my parents, if they be guided. But one thing that, you know, Allah and Islam has helped me with is to still be kind to my parents, you know, because I understand that they went through a lot and whatever, and other things that I don't know about, that who has made made them, what they are today. And I'm a lot kinder to my parents now. So I used to be, like I said, talking back all the time. So
Oh, okay. So you're a little mouthy. Is that
I,
the
I,
okay?
I know what that's like.
Yeah, as parents, we know.
I was like that as a teenager, and it you say you were the black sheep. I was probably the black sheep of my family.
SubhanAllah.
So I know
See, I
that
can't see that in you. I just don't see
you
that.
can't.
SubhanAllah.
But I can understand character, and our character is a good example. My parents became Muslim, in the 70s, in the early 70s. And my grandmother became Muslim in 1994. And she said one of the main reasons in which she became Muslim was because of my mother's character, because how much my mother had changed from the person before Islam to the person after Islam. And one of her big things were the respect that my mother had given her, up until her passing. And we shrouded her, gave her janazah, and buried her. And my grandmother returned to Allah as a Muslim. And even though she was in her 80s when she had taken Shahada, she still saw that my mother's character was the defining decision in her becoming a Muslim. And she also said she never really believed that, as Jesus, looking at him as God, she did know that he was a servant of God, but she didn't know anything else. So, yeah, so I can see where, the characteristics in which we're supposed to be exhibiting can have a really good effect on the rest of our family members that are struggling with trying to find their way as well. And I have one more question. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Brother
no,
Rashid.
go, sister. No, go for it. Go.
You mentioned women in Islam, and this is something that comes up a lot. That's why the question that brings us to, well, do I want to become Muslim or don't I want to become Muslim because I heard that women are abused or mistreated or these types of things happen. Abuse and does not have a religious definition. People are abusive individuals. They just happened to be Muslim at the time if they are exhibiting abuse to others. They also have a story. People just don't become abusers. They also have a story. But I find it very interesting that in Islam, I feel that these subject matters are exacerbated when they are also mentioned in the Bible. The covering is mentioning in the Bible. As a lot of people have had multiple wives in the Bible, and then there's mentioning of being able to hit your wives, and these things are mentioned in the Bible. Why do you think that they're so focused on in Islam? Is it the unknown? Is it the fact that people don't really know what's happening over there, and Christianity may be more of a broader understanding?
I think it's systemic racism, because once you see somebody who is just not white, they must be just full of all these other, bad behaviors. And I hope that my story doesn't exacerbate that stereotype too, that Muslim men are abusive. And, we need to separate culture and religion. And that's what people need to know, that it's not the same. There's generational trauma that happened, right? And people keep passing down the same bad behaviors. Nobody wants to, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point. I mean, I think, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that just because we become Muslim, it doesn't mean that we will not be tested. And just like the young man you were married to and the father of your children, we don't know what's in his past and what traumas he has in his past. And simply because he became Muslim doesn't mean he's going to be perfect. He's not going to be that idol guy. So there's problems in every tradition and in every race and every culture. And sometimes you're right, it does get identified to Black folks or Pakistani folks or whoever. You know, those things are thrown around so heavy, when at the end of the day, it's really Shaitan just coming at us and coming at us hard. And if we're not in a community or praying often and pouring out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we sort of open ourselves accidentally into those things. And that's an unfortunate piece of it all. But I guess in terms of the final question here, with all that you've gone through and you being so steadfast in your deen, and I know you're into fashion, so I wanted to touch on that just a little bit too, but what recommendations do you have for the new Muslims that are out there, especially who are thinking about Islam and with Ramadan coming up? So I'll phrase it in those two spaces, inshallah.
Sorry, is your question about fashion?
Yeah, let me go there, because I know that's one thing that you're really into, and then we'll end it off with the Ramadan.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I feel like I've been struggling with that. So, like I said, I was on a spiritual high last year, and I put on hijab, and I was like, this is awesome. I feel so free. I am empowered. And then, this is embarrassing. Then I got hot and the summer came.
It's real though.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to stay indoors. I'm just going to, I found myself kind of avoiding the public because I didn't want to be uncomfortable. So I work at home, so it was convenient for me too. And then I got a call from my boss. There was going to be a celebration for hitting our goals. And, we're invited to this nice dinner in Silicon Valley. And I'm not going to go as a hijabi. I was scared. So honestly, I backpedaled because I thought about my future. I thought about, continuing to make money, because right now I'm not seeing a lot of prospects for marriage and I need to take care of me. So, astaghfirullah, that's what I did. I took off hijab because I was worried about my career. I went to the dinner, I met all the bigwigs, I got my name out there and I told them my career goals, and it was a nice dinner, and I drove home. So I kind of have just been, focusing on being a put together mom. My fashion is modest, by American standards, not by Muslim standards. I'm doing my best, but now that I feel like, people have told me before, you're gonna go up and down in your what is the word? Is it iman?
Iman. Yeah.
So, maybe I won't put on my shorter dress anymore. I might just wear pants from now on, and I might wear the longer shirts that cover. So it's like it is a struggle. It is a daily struggle. Right. But I keep praying. So my advice is, don't let those things hold you back. Allah is most forgiving. So he just wants to see you make that effort. So if it's short skirts today, down your journey, it might be longer skirts. So we just got to keep on keeping on. Throughout life, I've never felt like I belong to any one group, nor fully accepted. I've always been that person in high school that kind of just like floated from group to group. I didn't have like a lot of friends. I felt like I can kind of vibe with everyone almost. I love people, but I'm mostly introverted. And I used to know a lot of people who would put me down for that. Islam gives me that peace and comfort and contentment. Islam gives me permission to be myself while working on myself. I don't need to have a whole bunch of friends because they're not always good influences, right? So I've accepted that. I have a few sweet Muslimas that I cherish who are just gems, and that's all I need. And if I want to be extroverted and if I want to be social, I have Tarbiyah Soul Sisters and Embrace.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Tarbiyah Soul Sisters. Alhamdulillah.
Did you have any other questions, Sister Sakina?
No, I just wanted to thank Sister Jennifer again for sharing her story with us. It was a story of strength. It takes a lot of strength to tell it. And I'm sure when people are watching this or seeing this or hearing it, you would have made a difference in their lives.
Yes, Sister Jenn, I also do want to thank you for being here and for being so vulnerable and for opening up to a lot of the things that you have gone through and the things that you're going through. But I just want to remind myself that, you know, hijab is about covering, and it's in your heart, right, as well. So even though we may not always be covering externally, we shouldn't judge a person for that because we don't know what they're going through. We don't know where they are in their journey and on their path. And like yourself, you know, you're praying all the time, but the hijab may be a thing now, but the next week for somebody else, it may be a skirt, longer skirt, or other things. And so, like I said, everyone's on their own journey and everyone's on their own path, and we have to stay away from being judgmental of other people and be encouraging other people and to make dua for other people and be a family member for other people as opposed to anything else. So on that note, we'll go ahead and end. Ya Rabbil Alameen, we testify that you're the only true God. You stand alone and you have no partners. And it is you and you alone in whom we seek mercy and who we seek forgiveness and who we seek a spacious grave, and who we ask that you allow us to reach another Ramadan and to practice another Ramadan. And ya Allah, please help us on the journeys and on the different paths that we're going on and help us to do all that we can do to get closer to you. And it's the little things that we do every day that truly, truly matter. And we ask that you please give salams and blessings on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like you gave salams and blessings on the Prophet Ibrahim. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Again, thanks a lot. And Jenn, we're going to have you back.
Yes, we are.
we have to. There's a lot going on.
We got to do follow-up shows.
Yes, yes.
I'm here to help.
I got something to say.
Thank you for spending time with us here at C2I. We hope that you found this beneficial. And if so, you know exactly what to do. Smash the subscribe, like, and share button. And for additional content and other conversion stories, please see our YouTube playlist, the Facebook page, the Conversion to Islam website, or any of your favorite podcast applications. Onwards and upwards towards the light.